Go bury them and stay standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let us pray. Lord God, I thank you for your presence. We know you're present everywhere at all times in all places, and I ask your presence in this room at this time. Gracious Father, I ask that your presence would bring a blessing for the people of the county of Mojave. But specifically today, Lord, I ask that your presence would bring a blessing upon this meeting, and I ask that you be in every word that is spoken and in every idea that is proposed, so that all the people can have your blessings in this county. Give us discernment, give us patience, and give us love for each other. We pray in the name of the risen Lord and Savior. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Need a motion to call for an executive session to be held April 19th, 2021 at 9 a.m.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Same sign. Motion carries. Committee or legislative reports. Mr. Lingenfelter.
Thank you, Chairman Johnson. At this point, still working with Regina Cobb on all of the water bills, and we're sort of strategizing about what's going to happen between the end of the session this year and the start of the session next year. There's a lot of opportunity to get some work done to build more momentum. As you may know, as everybody may know, Gail Griffin down there was just blocking the water bills that Regina had at every turn. So we got to get more active on our ground game at the supervisors level and at the local level. So I'm going to be working with Regina as part of her water committee, and through that vehicle, hopefully, build momentum for the next legislative session. That's all I have. Thank you.
Cool.
Nothing today, sir.
Thank you, Chairman Johnson. For the first time in 20 years, the House Judiciary Committee held a hearing on the impacts of the radiation exposure to downwinders in Mojave County. This was a long-awaited hearing, and it's a key step in righting the historical wrongs and ensuring that downwinders are recognized and their families are recognized and compensated. I also attended a couple important ribbon-cutting events, one being the Kingman Fire Department Station number 22, that the city's been real proud of. And then I also, earlier in the week, I was able to travel to Colorado City to join Supervisor Lincoln Felter and Economic Development Director Tammy Ersenbach in opening a grocery store in the Colorado City area. It was an honor to meet some of the people up there and see this amazing grocery store that they did the ribbon cutting on. And it's a two-story grocery store. It's spacious. The ambiance is very nice. Upstairs is a conference room and a wine bar and a proposed beer garden. They're having classes for culinary cooking lessons, and it was just very, very impressive. And so I did put a plug in and asked the developer if he might consider bringing something like that to Golden Valley, and he said he was interested, so we will see. Other than that, I attended the Vietnam Memorial Ceremony at Locomotive Park, and we appreciate our veterans, and I went to support them. That concludes what I have done.
Thank you, Supervisor Angus.
Thank you. I've been attending the LPC meetings from CSA every week, either by Zoom or sometime I go down there. And things are going to be happening quicker now. We're sort of nearing the end of the session. The ones that we've been watching, some of them have gone through. The one that we are watching very closely, HB 2401, the Juvenile Dependency State Aid that Leo Biasucci is running. Looks like it's going, but we don't know yet. All the money bills are going to be flying now, and we'll see how that ends up. We do have some allocations that we're waiting to hear about. So I'll have more. We didn't have a meeting this past Friday because of Good Friday, but we will have one Friday, and hopefully I'll have much more information then.
Thank you. I've submitted some reports from virtual meetings that Bill Lamb, he's an associate with Quad State, has attended during the past month. They were on water resource management strategies, weather and climate perspective on historic wildfires, and a take on conflict resolution. I've also submitted a Fish and Wildlife Service white paper on connectivity. There were multiple references to this during the recent Desert Tortoise Council Symposium, and it will likely be a driver relating to land use planning carried out by BLM in the coming year. Some may be common sense, since it points the way to mountain passes, which are well known and appreciated. The underlying climate change concerns, however, bear study, since part of the justification includes providing escape routes for tortoises to change home range if and when the climate does change. Western Caucasus Foundation Energy and Land Use had a forum focused on the Biden administration's new rule that bans new leases of oil and gas on federal lands. They spoke briefly about their disagreement with the halt on the XL pipeline, and that it really doesn't make sense, being that the pipeline was almost done anyway. They were in their fourth phase. And it'll cost more in greenhouse gas emissions to transport the crude oil via trucks and train than it would in the pipeline. Senator Cassidy was the moderator. The panelists were Harry from Louisiana, Lori Biden from New Mexico, and a Democrat, Jason, I could use his last name, from Louisiana. Harry was talking about the Louisiana oil and gas production on federal and state lands. They have coastal programs for oil and gas production, and they're the most environmentally friendly productions of oil and gas in the U.S. The coastal productions alone is set to bring in $389 million over the next 3 years. Over the past years, the industry in Louisiana, the politicians, and all the stakeholders have been working on an action plan related to climate change. They feel what the Biden administration did was just pull the rug out from under them. They've been working to bring the industry to more environmental production, and if the administration would listen to them, they could explain to them that how it is done, working towards a plan with partners to ensure oil and gas sustainability, and also enact policy regarding climate change to protect the country. New Mexico spoke about the same topic. The ban on new leases is really hurting the Gulf of Mexico. If businesses don't feel there's certainty to start oil drilling, their production is going to go nowhere. Louisiana understands climate change and the dire need to combat it, but doesn't think shutting down an entire industry is the right answer. They feel the industry is working on actions to combat climate change. Gave an example of a business who was working on a new lease in federal land, and with Biden's action, it took one of the rigs offline that could have employed 25 people, or had 25 jobs with over 100 indirect jobs. They all agree that we need to change the narrative and go on the offensive. They mentioned that we need to inform folks of all the products produced by natural gas. For example, how much natural gas is used in synthetics and plastics. Their argument was that we can stop oil and gas production in the U.S., but it's not going to stop oil and gas production on a world level. Everyone says climate change is a global problem, so we have to start looking at it like that. We take oil and gas production away from the U.S. or make it more expensive to drill for oil and gas, these companies are going to be going elsewhere. So their argument was that if America doesn't produce oil and gas, it will still be imported from other countries. Those other countries will produce oil and gas with far more emissions than if America produced it, because we have the money and the technology to do this in a green, cleaner way than other countries like Siberia. They said if America were to burn coal and China stopped doing so, we could reduce global greenhouse gas emissions by 50%. They all agree that there are some common sense approaches to greenhouse gases, like blue hydrogen, which is cheaper than green hydrogen but still reduces greenhouse gas emissions. They said we have to start using the narrative of think about a global environmental impact, not just a state. Making sure that folks know the story of the hardworking men and women just trying to get food on the table. And when we talk about oil and gas production, it's not about big oil. It's about the average Joe. If we all get together, we could figure this out, and we don't take away jobs from today's workers. They said the carbon footprint of oil and gas coastal exploration has a low carbon footprint. 2016 study out of the DOI under Obama shows this. The Gulf of Mexico produces the least carbon-intensive barrels of oil anywhere in the world. They did seem to understand that technology is changing, as is the consumer habits. We're going towards more electric and hybrid cars, but they said you can't just flip a switch to go from oil and gas to electric or renewable overnight. You have to have a transition, and they feel that policies Biden has enacted so far is not transitioning the way it should be. Also had a meeting on the Highway 95 fiber network strategy meeting. We had people from Mojave County. Ms. Hersenbach attended also, and La Paz and Yuma. And they're looking at a regional approach to bring high-speed broadband to rural areas in our counties. They want to use Highway 95, existing lines, and partnerships with the 3 counties to accomplish this. There were broadband grants included in the COVID relief bill, and they hope to take advantage to accomplish this. The call was put together to start the discussion. Paul Fleming with WECOM was on the call to talk about what they have done in the past and what they can bring to the table to help. Arizona Commerce Authority spoke briefly about funding they have available for small projects that they have to do with broadband. They can help us go through all the different areas we can get funding and help bring it together, because broadband is now considered critical infrastructure like water and electricity, and there should be tons of funding available. EDA spoke briefly on federal funding. They said they're still waiting to see exactly what the criteria and priorities will be for the federal grants passed through the COVID relief bill. They assume they will be similar to the EDA ones that they offer now. A regional, more strategic approach is the best approach to these broadband grants. They said to pay attention to differences in investment priorities and eligibility. Many have different criteria. The EDA funding, for example, has a link to job creation in their funding, and it's sometimes tougher to get in more urban areas. In rural areas, you can prove that broadband infrastructure will create direct jobs, because companies will come if they know there is broadband versus none. The EDA is working with commerce authorities through workshops so that the job creators can be better identified and connected to a better broadband strategy. Paul Fleming with WECOM spoke next and gave a brief history of their company and what they do. They've been in business for 66 years, dealing with TV service to internet. For the past 30 years, they've really turned their attention to broadband. They lay fiber lines and do service to businesses with one-on-one approach. They are not an ISP and don't plan to be one, but they can help with the fiber part. What sets WECOM apart is that they do their own construction and therefore provide their own timeline. For example, they gave us was that they were working with a company to lay 15 miles of fiber. They were able to get it done in 3 months, whereas another provider had been at it a year and a half. The hurdle for laying broadband fiber in rural areas is also going to be the demand versus cost for larger ISP providers. An example would be Chloride needs broadband, but are you going to invest $5 million to serve 7,500 people? Maybe, which is why a regional approach is better. They are looking at doing fiber pipeline from Havasu to Yuma. It would bring broadband to areas such as Quartzsite and all those small communities between here and Yuma. They can work with pre-existing conduits and fibers to save money, because anytime you have to dig underground and put in new pipes, it's going to cost a considerable amount. So if the municipality can allow them to use the conduits, then it's cheaper for both parties. How does WECOM benefit? Well, an example they gave us was they would be given access to the city or county conduits, and they can ensure the city or county buildings are connected to it. WECOM benefits by having access to the conduits for future projects they may need, like using them to connect fibers to neighborhoods nearby that currently don't have access, so it'd be a win-win for everyone. Partnership is the key. They gave us an example of what they are in talks with Lake Havasu to do that could help save money. The city is looking to go to a new infrastructure and build new water lines, therefore abandoning the old water lines. So WECOM could use the old water lines to run fiber. It will save time and money. They work with places to use old gas lines and water lines. Someone brought up the concern of the gift clause in the scenario. They also said because of it as an offset, they send a bill for, say, $5,000 for the using the lines, and then WECOM sends a bill for $5,000 for service. So takes care of the gift clause. Not sure if that works or not. They mentioned there is a critical need for in the agricultural areas. They have a lot of their businesses in the areas outside of the service areas, so they need to get broadband to them. Yuma gave an example of a partnership they did 11 years ago when NASA relocated some of their teams to Yuma at the airport. They needed fiber, so airport paid a substantial amount of money to an ISP to bring 5 gigabytes to one building in the airport. They had 9 different buildings, so they made a deal with the ISP. If they could get the ISP to expand their bandwidth, the county would go in and build the rest of the network to connect to the other buildings. They agreed, and the airport went in and built 42,000 feet of fiber up to 10 gigabytes capable, and they now provide all phone and data access to their tenants. Someone asked about a data center. WECOM said most of their stuff connects back to Phoenix and Vegas, and most businesses want it that way. An example they gave was a rural hospital they worked with, had a radiology center in Phoenix, so they put a server in their Phoenix building that connected back to their rural location. A data center in rural areas at the moment would be extremely expensive and probably not needed at the moment, but is something we can look at in the future. The next steps may be an IGA between Yuma, La Paz, and Mojave to use right-of-ways or whatever they need to lay the fiber lines. Current data supports the idea that different types of improvements made so broadband is in the areas is not having broadband attract higher paying jobs and larger businesses. That's all. All right, next, county manager's report.
Mr. Chairman, board members, good morning. I have 2 brief items. First one is the National Association of Women Business Owners awarded the Women with Vision Award to our own Ms. Tammy Ursenbach, our Economic Development Director. The Women of Vision Award honors women executives, entrepreneurs, employees, and the businesses they run throughout Arizona. John Breeze, the president, noted in his remarks at the event, "In a year like no other in our lifetime, we are proud to recognize these phenomenal women, their vision, organization, and achievements that are simply unparalleled." So with that, I would also like to say we are proud of Ms. Ursenbach, and I wanted to share that with you. And congratulations to Tammy. One other brief item, and that is the Department of Economic Security. This is a follow-up to the fraudulent unemployment claims matter that we've been discussing. Subsequent to the last board meeting, the Department of Economic Security responded to us through Chief Civil Attorney Ryan Esplin, and noted that DES has removed the charges for the fraudulent claims that were billed to Mojave County. Additionally, they will be removing the charges from any claims that might come in for the 2 months of 2021 for January and February. So they additionally notified us that they have implemented additional measures aimed at the prevention and deletion of fraudulent claims. So progress has been made, and it sounds like they're holding the county whole as far as any charges that are not our responsibility. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. With a call to the public, Olin Browning. Come on down to the podium here, sir, please.
Morning, everyone. My name is Olin Browning. I live at 2012 Florence Avenue in Kingman, Arizona, and I'm here to speak for the women prisoners in the Adult Detention Center. I've been told by a friend of mine who's been there since November the 9th that the men are allowed to play basketball, but the women are not. There has been an officer over there whose name I'm not really sure of, but I think it's an Analia or something like that. She's been trying for the last 2 years to get a basketball for the women, and it's been shot down for the last 2 years. And I would like to see something done about that, because women need exercise the same as men. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, sir. Stephen Tomanello.
My name is Stephen Tuminello. I'm speaking on behalf of myself as a resident of Mojave County, the Great American Patriots Organization, and Sheriff Richard Mack, founder of the Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association. It is unfortunate that I was not able to attend the Board of Supervisors meeting on March 15th to establish facts in rebuttal to an email that was read at this meeting. I was told that the clerk of the board, Jenny Anderson, read a letter from a concerned citizen that made some incorrect statements. Sheriff Mack is not in business with Robert and Kathleen Hall of Great American Pizza. The Halls honored Sheriff Mack by naming their Second Amendment pizza after him, since his Supreme Court case in 1997 basically saved the Second Amendment. And the reason I made a comment about Deputy County Attorney Esplin is I've never seen his face, and I wanted to see what he looked like. He always has a mask on. And so I looked him up on the internet because he tried to eject me from the court here. Ron Gould was a witness to that, and when I threatened to call Sheriff Schuster, he backed off very quickly. But I discovered that he counseled Gene Bishop regarding a gentleman by the name of Les Patty, who was removed from the county administration building last year in late September for not wearing a mask due to his constitutional rights. And Deputy County Attorney Esplin said that Mr. Patty's constitutional rights did not apply in the county administration building. Now, Mr. Les Patty is here in the courtroom today, and he verified to me exactly what happened. This was brought up since Deputy County Attorney Esplin was up for a raise after giving legal counsel that was in conflict with the supreme law of the land, the Constitution of the United States of America. In an Arizona Central publication article from May 2nd of 2020, Mr. Esplin stated that Governor Ducey's orders had the effect of being law and could not simply be ignored. Now, Mr. Esplin, like most attorneys, probably was not taught the Constitution in law school. I just finished a presentation by constitutional attorney Michael Perutka, who worked with me on the Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association on our proclamation to over 3,000 sheriffs in the United States regarding the illegality and unconstitutionality of the governor's edicts and orders regarding the coronavirus. Attorney Perutka discussed how many attorneys use precedent case law, or what is called pretend legislation. That is why we have a conflict with constitutional rights of citizens like Mr. Les Patty. It states in our proclamation that in point of fact, no governor in any state has the authority to suspend the Constitution, and no pretended emergency powers legislation that can give it to him, because the legislature cannot give the governor an authority that they themselves do not have. And any attempt for a governor to suspend constitutional rights is an act of lawlessness and a violation of his or her oath of office. When law enforcement officers and attorneys take an oath of office, they swear obedience and fidelity to the Constitution. Thank you.
Thank you. Chris Rodarte.
I'm Chris Rodarte from Kingman. What God-given rights have we surrendered in exchange for the $41.5 million allocation from the American Rescue Plan Act? Have any of you read this bill? Here's a portion of the $1.9 trillion bundle of tax debt disaster we are passing along to our children and grandchildren. $135 million to the National Endowment of the Arts, $200 million to the Institute of Museum and Library Services, $135 million to the National Endowment for the Humanities, funding for the Department of Labor Worker Protection Activities, $200 million. OSHA gets $100 million. $14.9 billion to carry out Section 658C of the Child Care and Developmental Block Grant of 1990. Grants to support culturally specific populations, $49.5 million. $35 million to Howard University. $95 million to address wildlife trafficking. $175 million for the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, and $204 million for the State Department. This is a paltry portion of the pork. And of course, $7.5 billion to, quote, carry out activities to plan, prepare for, promote, distribute, administer, monitor, and track COVID-19 vaccines, unquote. The states run the federal government, not the other way around. Shane Krause, in his book, Your Nation to Save, said, and I quote, the 10th Amendment guaranteed that the individual states and the people would play an ongoing role in the government. The framers had a deep distrust and disdain for concentrated power and how it could tragically affect the lives of the governed. The 10th Amendment was written to ensure that the states maintain much of their authority to determine issues better left for more localized government, such as health, welfare, and safety, unquote. Sadly, Mojave County has already accepted the H.R. 1319 money. In doing so, we sink deeper into the mire of federal deep state autocracy. Refusing these funds would have sent the message that you honor the God-given rights of the people to self-rule. Tragically, this is not the case, and the future of our republic hangs in the balance.
Stephen Robinson.
I'm Stephen Robinson from Golden Valley. Chairman Johnson and Supervisors, I really didn't plan on speaking to you now, but at last meeting, a woman made false statements through an email, I presume, which demand a response. Donna Ramirez is a political activist I met last year. She became very friendly with me, even pretending to be a love interest. We talked at length over the months through phone or video. That stopped Thanksgiving when she reneged on her promise to stop attacking Robert Hall's Great American Pizza. I then found out she'd been secretly recording our calls. I made some critical comments about a few politicians, which she then sent to them, cutting out her voice. You should hear what she had to say about you. At least Ed Mack sent the full recording with then-candidate Senator Borelli to the press. Ms. Ramirez claimed I spoke of conspiracy theories in February after the meeting. Wrong, she wasn't even here. Now she's become one of Ms. Bishop's staunchest defenders, along with Lori Rogers Roll and Leslie Tyler, all of whom constantly attack Robert Hall and me. Well, you need to know the real Miss Bishop from last fall. She went to Valley Pizza and Cafe for the first time ever, and then asked them if they were wearing masks, saying she was just checking. She's never been back. She went through El Rancho's drive-thru twice. The health department showed up after each time, first giving a written warning, then a $1,180 fine. Days after she cast the deciding vote for the $10,000 in fines, the health department showed up at Great American Pizza 4 consecutive days. Owners at these businesses made it clear to Ms. Bishop they did not support her, but we're now supposed to believe she had nothing to do with the health department showing up. The Easter Bunny is more believable. A friend ate at another Golden Valley cafe, and they asked why nobody wore masks. They said, we're friends of Gene. Some photographs I have here are of different businesses that are in Golden Valley that they don't wear masks at all. Again, they all are friends of Gene. Finally, rather than respond to the issues of the recall, Bishop's pit bulls made personal attacks, just like Democrats. There's much to say about Miss Bishop's misconduct, but there's just not enough time. But the public will hear more in the future.
Mark Ochicchio. Rocky.
Good morning. My name is Mark Rocchio. I live down in Lake Havasu, and I'm here to not demonstrate, but to show you a technology that would allow you to open up all your senior centers and actually allow you to have all your buildings completely free of all pathogens and contaminants to a 99.9% level. And one says, who verifies this? Well, this was all developed by the International Space Station, by the NASA, and it is still being used as the primary protector in the International Space Station for our astronauts. It is not a filter, does not put out any chemicals, and covers 3,000 square feet. What this allows, once you plug it in, it allows you to sanitize, purify all of the air. This was all tested by the FDA, their most sophisticated laboratory in Galveston, Texas. They also test some of the most worst pathogens in the world, as does CDC there. They showed that our unit kills SARS-2 in 3 minutes. 3 minutes. And that's somewhat of an amazing number. We couldn't even say that before December when they did the test on this unit. This technology is being used all over the country. The Cleveland Clinic has over 100 of them in their operating rooms because they're doing a double-blind study. The county complement is Pierce County. They purchased 2,000 of them with their CARES Act several months ago. So what this does for you is it allows your space to be purified to a 99.9% level of all pathogens. That would be funguses, molds, dust mites, bacteria, and the biggie, which is all viruses ever tested. It also eliminates all contaminants. What that allows your space to be is absolutely free of all the kinds of things that people currently struggle with in the form of allergies and other breathing issues, allowing only the immune system to have a 99% level of purification for your breathing. So within your space, this technology literally allows you to no longer spray and wipe and clean, because this technology cleans everything and keeps it 24/7 because it's never turned off. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right, that concludes our call to the public. We need a motion to approve a proclamation declaring April 7th National Service Recognition Day.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next up is the consent. Items 5 through 30 be taken. Oh, I missed something. 2 proclamations. All right, we got another proclamation the week of April 18th, 2021 to April 24th, 2021 as National Crime Victims Week in Mojave County.
So moved.
Motion to have a second.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Items 5 through 30 be taken as one motion. Supervisor Angus, do you have any items to pull?
Nothing this morning, thank you.
Supervisor Bishop.
18, please.
Supervisor Gould.
Number 20, Mr. Chairman.
Supervisor Lingenfelter.
Item 22, please.
Okay, I need a motion to approve consent items 5 through 30 minus 18, 20, and 22.
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
Have a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item number 18.
Thank you, Chairman Johnson. This has to do with the Golden Valley Veterans Park van accessible parking spaces. Originally, I believe the plan was to add 3 parking spaces. And the reason I bring this up is because Golden Valley has a lot of retired elderly members that use this community park, and it is really the only public meeting place that Golden Valley has. The parking area is deep sand, and people that are on walkers and wheelchairs really have difficulty getting to the beautiful new sidewalks that we put in. And I've been reached out by several people that have family members in wheelchairs asking for the parking to be improved. And I'm very happy to see that this is on the agenda to approve 2 parking spaces, but originally it was 3, and I think we have the money to go forward and put those 3 parking spaces in. So I hope that that my fellow board members will support me in this, and I'd like to make a motion that we approve item number 18 with the addition of another parking space, making it a total of 3.
I guess my question would be, do we have enough money in that item? County manager or Mr. Letowski or?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to have Steve Letowski come up and address that, please.
Good morning, Chairman Johnson, Supervisor Bishop, and members of the board. Public Works reached out to a contractor to obtain a proposal based on a quantity of materials that would accomplish the 2 spaces. So as a result, we would have to resolicit a proposal, which would in all likelihood entail additional concrete material. With that said, the amount of funds being requested at $4,500 would likely be too low, and I would kindly request that we would increase that potentially to about $6,000 to $7,000. I would suspect that the contractor would be capable of re-proposing to accommodate the 3 spaces at say the $6,000 level. The board would consider a budget transfer for that, which Public Works, the parks budget is well positioned to accommodate.
So would you want us to just turn this down then and let it be rebid and let you come back with another project?
Supervisor Johnson, it would be the board's discretion, but we would welcome a motion that would entail a budget transfer of, say, $6,000 with the addition of 3 spaces. And then that would allow us to work with our colleagues at procurement to procure the contract accordingly. So we brought this item before the board primarily because it was a capital item that required a budget transfer. We just wanted to be duly informative to the board on this action, mainly for the budget transfer.
So, Mr. Lukowski, am I correct in remembering that we originally had approved 3 spaces?
Yes.
And I believe it was to be blacktop at that time.
Yes, this will be hard surface. They have to be. And I believe our miscoming here is the fact that we fell back to just the county minimum standards, but county minimums are minimums, so we can always go above and beyond that.
Okay, and do you agree that the sand is abnormally deep in the area of parking for that park?
Yes, it would not be able to adequately accommodate ADA accessible space. Yes.
Okay, so with that being pointed out, I make a motion that we approve item number 18, increasing the budget transfer of $6,000 from Parks Contingency and install 3 concrete ADA van accessible parking spots at Veterans Park.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item number 20.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Since this involves the Horizon 6 Water Improvement District, and they often mention that they are not informed on the things that we do with their money, I thought we might want to have a brief overview of what they're asking us to do with their money today. Mr. Letowski.
Yes, Chairman Johnson, Supervisor Gould, members of the board. This has been an issue that has come to light recently with regard to the operation of the booster station in the event of a power outage in the Greater Horizon 6 area. This emergency transfer switch will enable the automatic turn on of the booster station in the event of a power outage almost seamlessly to afford continuous delivery of water in the event of a power outage. We did have one such power outage few months ago, 3-4 months ago, whereby for about a 1 hour period, and this is what brought the issue to our attention, the booster station simply did not operate. The generator which is in place, we found the transfer switch failed, and as a result, we identified this necessary $5,700 item to replace that transfer switch and effect the proper operation of that generator when it's desperately needed.
So, Mr. Latosky, without this improvement, essentially you'd have to wait for somebody to go and throw the transfer
Manually.
switch manually.
That's
People
correct.
would potentially lose water pressure during that period of time.
That's correct. And with the proximity of Horizon 6 being some 1 hour away from our base of operations with our water operators, even though our friends at Lake Havasu City, it's possible they could step in. It's time is of the essence, of course, with regard to it, and that's why the generator is there. So having that transfer switch is key to the whole operation.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I move that item 20 be adopted.
Second.
We have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item number 22.
Thank you, Chairman Johnson. Is either economic development or maybe Steve, since you're at the podium, I just have a couple of questions regarding this grant. I think this is the same stretch of road we spoke about in a previous meeting. Interested in what the grant criteria are.
Yes, Supervisor Lingenfelter, appreciate you bringing this to our attention. The Director Ursenbach made us aware of the Arizona Commerce Authority's grant targeting rural development projects, and their target this year is highway and road projects that serve rural areas and provide namely an economic significance if carried out. Noting the Apache Road, the background in supporting future build-out of that corridor, and really evidenced by the Meyer Distributing recent construction and opening. We took it upon ourselves. I did the lead on the grant writing, thanks to Director Ursenbach calling this opportunity to our attention, and really reasoned that with the completion of this roadway, it does, in fact, provide a compelling investment, for future property development and namely jobs development in Mojave County.
Appreciate that. And I asked the question because the last time I remember, I didn't think there was really much on this road or really anybody using this road. And we have had discussion about picking and choosing winning areas and losing areas in the county. Obviously, there's a lot more areas than just this area that are doing some great things in economic development, and we want to make sure that those areas get attention too. So I wasn't sure how this road was chosen over all the other potential areas where we may need some road improvements or something like that that would bolster economic development. I'm not sure how those decisions were made, how this area, this road was chosen over all the others. That's my question.
I see. And this is of time is of the essence. When the grant was brought to our attention, the grant deadline is April 20th. So we had a few options to consider, given that the grant does have a defined time frame in terms of carrying out any project that's proposed to completion. We knew we had the plans on the shelf, and that could prove that there was a county investment into the project already with the engineering development. And we reasoned some of the main project benefits included establishing access to over 1,100 acres of already zoned heavy manufacturing land. It's selling that economic development point. Also noting that Mojave County is in an economically distressed area, and in addition, Golden Valley. And lastly, reasoning that based on the amount of lands that potentially could be developed, and we also cited the Meyer success, that there may be potentials for bringing in 600 plus jobs and over $100 million of direct economic impact. So we tried to rely on what was accomplished already.
I appreciate that. I do know that in my district, in the industrial park, there are active current businesses there that are on some pretty rough roads. So just in the future, if all areas and potential impact to even current businesses and expanding businesses and not just possible businesses in the future, that should be looked at. But isn't I also correct that this money, if rewarded, would be paid back to HERF, the $800,000 that we approved last meeting?
It would be a maximum grant of $500,000. That would be the maximum, and that's well phrased. More of a reimbursement mechanism. So, though the board directed us to move forward with that $800,000 project, I do see this more as a reimbursement opportunity by pursuing this grant, where the HERF, if reimbursed, if we're successful, can put the monies toward a future capital plan.
Great.
For county.
Okay. Best of luck. Thank you.
Motion?
I make a motion. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Board members, last week I was contacted by a manager with the Western Area Power Administration. He told me that Pegasus never got a permit to place their trailers under the WAPA power lines. When they were pressed by WAPA to sign an agreement, they ceased communication with WAPA. He's concerned about that they've infringed on the right of way, the easement that's under those transmission lines. I just bring this forward because we mentioned potential projects. I don't think this project is ever going to move ahead. This puts me in somewhat of a quandary, because I can vote for the opportunity to have the taxpayers of the great state of Arizona share our pain on paving a road that I feel is not the highest priority use of our money, or I could vote no and then not alleviate the pain that our county taxpayers are going to feel from moving forward with this inappropriate project at this time. But I just thought I would share that with you. I thought of it when we started taking testimony on this, that I think it's just one more example that I think this is a dubious project. Thank you.
You have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign?
No.
Motion carries. I'll open the public hearing. Item number 31. Board of Supervisors Resolution 2021-36. It's an amendment to the Mojave General Plan and amendment to the Virgin River Community Area Plan. Anyone from the public wishing to address the board on this issue? Hearing none, I will close the public hearing. Pleasure of the board.
Chairman Johnson, I make a motion to approve resolution number 2021-036.
Second.
A motion and a second. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries. I will open the public hearing. Item number 32, adoption of Board of Supervisors Resolution 2021-37. It's a rezone. Anyone from the public wishing to address the board on this issue? Hearing none, I will close the public hearing. What's the pleasure of the board?
Chairman Johnson, I make a motion to approve resolution number 2021-037.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. The motion carries. Item number 33, I will open the public hearing. I do have one person signed up, Mark Clark.
Good morning, Chairman Johnson, Supervisors. For the record, my name is Mark Clark from Bullhead City. This project is going to be a manufactured home project in the Fort Mojave area, and that's why we need the general plan amendment and the area plan amendment, as well as a rezone, which will come a little later. We are looking to put an affordable housing development together in this area, and that's why we need this zoning the zoning change, as well as the general plan and area plan amendment. This is going to be a little bit more of an upscale affordable housing unit. They're going to have 3 clubhouses located within this development, as well as an open storage project. The open storage project will consist of approximately 3.7 acres, which will have a block wall surrounding the open storage project because it's going to be in the middle of the development, so we want it to look nice, with a rolling gate as far for access in and out of the open storage area. Again, it will have 3 clubhouses with 3 pools for the different areas of the project. It's approximately 90 acres. Again, we've got a lot of wonderful developments going in the Fort Mojave area. You got Fairway Estates, Patriot Estates, and a number of others getting infill over at Los Lagos and Desert Lakes and the Greens. And this was something that would be a little bit different because it would be an affordable housing development, which we sorely lack in that area. I would present myself for any questions you may have.
Supervisor Gould.
Thank you. Turned it off instead of on. Mr. Clark, so these are just some general questions about the project. I'm supportive of the project. I was up there on Thursday, driving all around looking at it and whatnot. So you're going to have a homeowners association to protect the property values of the people that buy the project?
Absolutely, yes, absolutely.
There's some concerns of the neighbors that there is a multifamily manufactured home project across the street. Changes names, right? I believe it's
Yes.
Cavalry to the north and
Andrews
to
in
the
front of our
south of
development.
Camp Mojave Road.
Yes.
I don't think that your project will ever look like that project.
No, we will have a perimeter wall around the project, which will make it look really nice with some nice entrances. One will be on Camp, at least at this point, one will be on Camp Mojave. There'll be 3 or 4 on Andrews, and they'll have nice entry landscaping. Again, this is looking to have a little bit more of an upscale feel to an affordable housing unit.
And I told my constituents that I met with that I'm assuming if your project goes well, someone will probably buy the other project that doesn't look as nice. And I think that'll end up getting upgraded also, I think, because of the project. As far as the paving of Camp Mojave Road.
Yeah, we're still working through all of those details. That's part of the preliminary plat process. We're doing all of the studies. We've met with staff, having a pre-plat meeting. And during that, we had to make a few changes to the layout of the development, so we had to go back to the drawing board a little bit. So we're just now completing the grading, the drainage, the traffic study, and part of that will be what we need to do as far as any road improvements will come out of those studies.
Thank you. And then you mentioned that you were going to put a block wall around the open lot
Yes, there
storage.
will be a perimeter wall.
Okay, and there is open lot storage, I believe, in the storage facility that's directly across the street from your proposed project already, so that's consistent, I would think.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else from the public that wishes to address the board? We will close the public hearing. It's the pleasure of the board.
Mr. Chairman,
Supervisor Gould.
I move that item 33 be adopted.
Second.
A motion and a second. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item number 34, I will open the public hearing. This adoption of Board of Supervisors Resolution 2021-39. It's a rezone. I do have a person who wishes to address the board, Mary Ann Kuntz.
Good morning. My name is Mary Ann Kuntz, and I'm a property owner on Camp Mojave Road. And their previous gentleman that was here addressed the surveys, I guess he's doing on Camp Mojave Road. Camp Mojave Road presently is not paved, majority of it, and it's used as a flood channel for any time there's a rain here. Camp Mojave Road is washed out. So therefore, there's going to be a lot of infrastructure. My question is, maybe you can answer it, who is going to pay for all of this infrastructure on Camp Mojave Road? As a property owner in LeClaire Acres, I do not want to be responsible for that.
Is there anybody here from Public Works? Not Public Works, but Planning and Zoning? Mr. Walsh? He might be able to answer, ma'am, if it's part of the...
Pardon?
He might be able to answer. Let Mr. Walsh come
I'm
up.
sorry.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Chairman Johnson, Board, good morning. As was alluded to by the applicant, a traffic impact analysis will be required as part of the preliminary plat. That traffic impact analysis will show the routes that will be required to be improved. If that analysis shows that Camp Mojave needs to be improved, then that would be the responsibility of the developer to provide those improvements. It would not fall on the neighboring property.
Does that answer your question, ma'am?
Yeah, you answered my question.
Anything else, ma'am?
I just wanted to be assured that there was going to be no financial burden on anyone that lives in or has property in LeClaire Acres, and you've addressed that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Don't blame you. Mr. Clark again.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Supervisors. I would just present myself in case you had any questions on the rezone, because it's the same project that we discussed in the previous item.
Doesn't appear to be any.
Okay, thank you.
Close the public hearing. What is the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chairman,
Supervisor Gould.
I move that item 34 be adopted with the following conditions: that the developer will pay for the paving of Camp Mojave Road along with any drainage required on Camp Mojave Road, that the project will have a homeowners association, and that the project will have a block wall around the open lot storage.
A second.
Second.
Motion and a second. Further discussion. Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries. I'll open the public hearing. Item number 35, Board of Supervisors Resolution 2021-040. It's a rezone. Anybody from the public wishing to address the board? Give your name and address, please, sir.
Good afternoon or morning, Supervisors. My name is Dustin Chantel. I live in Hackberry. To give you a little bit of information about this item 35, has a lot of extenuating circumstances on it. In 1995, the Board of Supervisors abandoned the public road in the area, which then caused some of the property owners in existence not to have a legal right-of-way. Since then, though, the property owners have dedicated and worked that back, got that situation squared away. Then another extenuating circumstances during that particular procedure on it, the neighbor to the north put their fences in on where the county assessors put the property line, which then blocked off the access to these particular property owner's property again, and the county attorney's office sent a letter to that property owner, asked him to try to correct that. He's in the process of addressing that, so we were able to get a road access into this particular piece of property that we have on the rezone today. And then the property owners need to have an address and to get electric to their property, and also for the water, because there's electric lines on it, and that goes through that particular property as well as water lines. So from the county planning says the only way they can really be is to have a rezone and to get it on. So that's why we're here today, is to try to get rid of all these extenuating circumstances. Everybody's been real kind of cooperative and working towards getting this thing done, and so it's right in your guys' hands right now. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else who wishes to address the board? Come on down, sir.
Hello. My name is Tim Finn, and I live in Hackberry also, and I've been there I lived in the county for 43 years, but I've lived in Hackberry for 20 now. And this properties and all the properties around is in my landscape. So, and I don't, they were having some arguments, and Mr. Chantel said that they were having problems with the road, and it's all county dedicated, but the county doesn't maintain any of those roads. But and they were, I don't know that they were complaining back and forth about there wasn't enough room to get by, and you know, so any improvements to that property would be a problem for the surrounding properties. But like I say, all that property is in my view or in my landscape, and it all looks fine to me, and I've been there for 20 plus years. And I just wanted to address the board that it's just property out there, and any improvement to the county is an asset for any taxpayers as far as I'm concerned. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else who wishes to address the board? I'll close the public hearing. Mr. Walsh, you want to come up? It says that per the statute, 57% of the owners oppose the rezoning and 75% of the area opposed also.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, if I may, if you'll indulge me a little bit, provide a little bit of history. This item, as was mentioned, this item came before the board in August of last year initially, and at that time, the requirements for a supermajority vote by the board were enacted. There were 57% of the owners were opposed, and 75% of the area surrounding the property, the owners of those properties opposed the matter. So we have not received any recantation of any of that opposition. Therefore, we have to assume that that opposition remains in place. That then triggers the 75% or the 3/4 vote by the board, which in a 5-member board would require 4 members to vote in the positive in order for it to be approved. If I may, just to provide a little additional history, as I mentioned, it came before the board back in August of 2020. At that time, it was denied by the board. Following some meetings with Mr. Chantel and some of the adjacent property owners, Supervisor Watson sponsored an item to have it reconsidered. It was reconsidered at the board's December 21st meeting. At that time, one of the conditions was not met in a parcel plat being recorded. It has since been recorded. The board at the time directed staff to continue the item until that plat was recorded. A record of survey has since been recorded, which is why we brought it before you at this time. I would also just mention to the board that 3 of the parcels that are proposed to be created through this rezone, and actually all of the property has been divided already. It has been split up. It is non-conforming at this time, or get my wording right. It is non-compliant with zoning. So zoning requires out there is I believe it's a 36-acre minimum. The parcels that were all created are less than the current zoning out there. The property, however, has been sold. It's just non-compliant, and therefore no building permits can be issued. So just one item of consideration is that this has been, there have been transactions, the property has been split, and the right-of-way has been dedicated in front of those properties. I believe it's a 50-foot right-of-way has been dedicated in front of the properties that were created. So I don't know if I made that more confusing or any more clear, but be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions, Supervisor Lingenfelter?
Thank you, Chairman Johnson. So being new on the board, I'm kind of curious how that happened. How did you subdivide property without being compliant with zoning? I don't understand how that happened.
Arizona allows for the sale of property without having to go through the subdivision process, through a formal subdivision process. If I have 40 acres, I can sell 10 of it off to whoever I like. Just say, hey, the west 10 acres of my property, I'm going to sell to my neighbor. So through that process, people are able to sell property even though it doesn't meet zoning. Now, when they come in to get a septic permit or to get a building permit, we check the zoning. If it's not compliant with zoning, at that point we say, hey, you need to get a rezone first before we can issue any permits. So,
Right. Caveat emptor, right?
Yep.
Buyer beware. And it's not on a maintained road? It's not in a road that's, or is it on a road that's in the county maintenance system?
it is not. No, so Trumpet Way, as Mr. Chantel had mentioned, back in the 90s was actually, this portion of Trumpet Road was trying to find the right way, extinguished. It was basically dedicated, or the dedication was removed. It was given back to the property owners. That caused some of the confusion, I think, were between the property owners. So during some of the discussions, I think between Supervisor Watson at the time and Mr. Chantel, was in order to support the reconsideration of the item, he wanted to see that right-of-way was dedicated. And that has occurred. Mr. Chantel worked with the property owners that he sold the property to in order to get that 50 feet in front of those dedicated back, which does create right-of-way. It, however, has not been accepted for county maintenance. So it's not a county-maintained road. It's just a right-of-way, basically legal access to the property.
Okay, thank you.
Just to clarify, Mr. Walsh, does the state law say you can split 5 times when you have the larger properties, if the original owner? But you can't go down to, a certain size, less than an acre, or I don't remember what it is now.
You're testing my knowledge, Chairman Johnson. Definitely, yeah, state law allows, and I'll probably lean on Attorney Esplin. State law does allow for a property split up to 5 times by an individual owner without having to go through the subdivision process. I'm not sure on the size limitation, if there's.
I don't know the answer to
the
that.
board. Oh, you have an answer, Mr. Esplin?
I don't. I could look into that.
No, it's pleasure of the board.
You know, I have gone through everything that I can. I know that this item seems to be sort of contentious with the majority of the property owners that are against it. So I'm actually going to recommend that we deny this.
A motion for denial. Do we have a second?
Second.
A motion and a second. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right, item number 36, discussion possible action to authorize reorganization of Public Health Department. County Manager.
Mr. Chairman, board members, good morning again. This item has been in discussion for some time. If you and the board members recall, back in September and October, at the height of the pandemic, our Mojave County Public Health Department experienced real challenges in their ability to hire. It was clearly understood at that time that compensation was an issue. Several of the board members directed the department and myself to work on it and come up with a solution. We have brought Mojave County Public Health and HR working together, conducting an analysis that consisted of both internal and external comparisons. They have come back with recommendations that will address those challenges. It keeps us within a comparable pay structure, but enables, we believe, the health department to overcome those challenges. And the recommendation that is in front of you can be achieved with salary savings due to the vacancies that they've experienced. Also, it will be shared with grants and grant splits. So to that end, it is recommended for your and the board consideration. And we would be grateful and appreciative. It took us months to get here, but we believe this is a solid and reasonable solution that should sustain the department for at least the foreseeable future.
Anyone have any questions? We have a motion.
Chairman Johnson, I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item number 37, discussion possible action, appointment of replacement for John Taylor. Board wish to go into executive session or not?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we go into executive session on this item.
And a second. Discussion, hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We'll be back in a minute. No, we just haven't got anybody back yet. Call the meeting back to order. We're on item number 37. Appointment of replacement for Judge Taylor. It was the pleasure of the board.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we appoint David Waite.
I'll second that.
A motion and a second. Any further discussion? If none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed, same sign? Aye.
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 All right, item number 38. Pardon? Negative. Supervisor Gould and myself were opposed, I believe.
And ayes.
Oh, with Supervisor Bishop, did you vote nay?
I was a no.
Oh. All
So
right.
I'd like to make a motion that we appoint Robin Kuhn.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed, same sign?
No.
No.
Okay, I think that one passed.
That was 3-2.
3-2, 4 against?
4.
4. All right.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Supervisor.
I move that we appoint Verlinter now.
We didn't Robin Kuhn as the appointment.
I did that, Pat.
Can we have a roll call? Chairman Johnson, can we do a roll call on that last one?
Nah.
No?
All right, we'll go do a roll call.
I thought the negative passed.
Okay, this is the motion to appoint Robin
Robin
Kuhn.
McEwen.
Supervisor Lingenfelter.
I like both of these candidates, but I'm going to vote no.
Supervisor Gould.
Aye.
Supervisor Bishop.
Yes.
Supervisor Angus.
No.
Chairman Johnson.
No.
Motion does not carry for Rob McEwen.
Mr. Chairman,
Supervisor Gould.
I move that we nominate Verlinter now.
We have a second.
I'll second it.
A motion and a second. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed, same sign?
No.
No.
So did that one pass? Okay.
All right, item number.
Congratulations, Verlin.
I'm sorry, what is the vote on that one? I don't know.
No, because we have.
Chairman, 3-2.
3-2 it
4.
passed.
The appointment of Verlin Tennell as the replacement for the Justice of the Peace.
So, can I ask a question of the county attorney, Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
The residency requirement for living in the precinct, do we need to clarify that on the motion?
So the person at the time of the appointment, the person must be a resident. My interpretation is the person must be a resident of the district, resident of the precinct, and of the same party of the person that was previously stepped down. And so in this case, it would be Republican and a resident of the precinct. If you wish to make it at an effective date, at a later date, you could do that to allow them a time to move in. It's the question of what is the effective date of the appointment. And so if you wish, you could try to make the effective date at a later date to allow that person to move in. Right now, it is effective right now because you've appointed the person. You haven't specified when the effective date will be. So I assume that it's effective today. So the person needs to be a resident of the precinct today.
We verify that by asking them, or we just change our motion?
I think we need to amend the motion.
You need to reconsider the motion first.
I make a motion that we reconsider the
Second.
A motion is second. No further discussion. All in favor, signify by Supervisor Angus.
I think that Ms. Tennell would be, as all the candidates, would be great. We have a very hard time, as evidence right now. But I think that the residency thing is an issue for me, and that's.
Motion on reconsideration. Do you have something?
Yeah, I would just what Hildy said. I feel the same way about it. Hopefully, we'll have some of the candidates that are in the room today run a candidacy. But the residency thing, as it's advertised and published, I feel like that needs to be taken into consideration. Thanks.
We have a motion for reconsideration. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Supervisor Gould.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move that we appoint Verlin Tennell with an effective date of 30 days from today.
Have a second.
Under discussion, I think 30 days might be too long for the Justice Court to wait to have that position filled. I'd like to ask Ms. Tennell how much time she would actually need, if that's allowed.
Sure.
Chairman Johnson and Supervisors, Supervisor Bishop, probably 2 weeks because I would need to give the governor notice. So I could change residency within that same amount of time.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Supervisor Gould.
I would amend my motion to a 14-day, I forgot the word, effective date.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. All opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 3-2. Item number 40 is approved identity theft protection for benefit.
Congratulations again.
Supervisor Andrews.
Okay. So we discussed whether or not we wanted to offer as a benefit the. What?
I'm sorry. Did we cover item 38, Chairman?
Oh.
Oh. All right, item number 38, discussion possible action adoption of administrative procedures 3-8, Mojave County social media policy. Define the responsibilities of county department employees and establish rules for retention of records and moderating public discussions. this under Mr. Altiers?
Mr. Chairman, board members, we've had some discussion on this in the past. We asked for the board to give us some direction, and the board asked us to put a policy together that would cover the social media interaction and provide for the record-keeping capabilities or retention of records and moderating a public discussion. We have been working on this for a few months, went back and forth as far as what is the best and most effective policy. If you recall, if the board recall, we had a gentleman from Yuma County come up and present to the board on their experience. We've taken all that information, put it into a county policy, formal policy format. We believe it is it's clear enough, specific enough to enable us to do so and do it in an effective manner. That's what's on the agenda, and we would we're asking that you approve that so we can proceed with it. Thank you.
Anybody have any questions? Does anyone like to make a motion? Continue it?
The motion that we adopt Administrative Procedure 3-8, Mojave County Social Media Policy.
Defining the responsibilities of county departments' employees and establishing rules for retention of records and moderating public discussion.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign.
No.
All right. Item number 39. Lingenfelter. Supervisor Lingenfelter.
Thank you, Chairman Johnson. I placed this on the board just as one possible proposal. When I came onto the Board of Supervisors, the county had already received $9.1 million in CARES Act funds last year. And as far as I can tell, there's about 4.8 still in the contingency fund, 2.5 million in capital projects. I'm not sure exactly where those funds are going to be allocated. Maybe Sam could tell us about that. But with these funds, I know some of the allowable uses are water infrastructure. There's a critical water project up in the Colorado City Short Creek Valley area that would service that whole valley. So the proposal would be to take the county's allocation, evenly divide it 5 ways, which would be about $8,300,000 over 2 years, and further direct Manager Elters and his administrative staff to work individually with each of the elected county supervisors to determine how the supervisor chooses to allocate their district's 1/5 share. And that is that.
Thank you. We have one person signed up. Are they still here? Deneen? Come on down.
Can we get the... Got it? Yes.
There we go.
They adjust the camera.
Deneen Wilhelmi, Donkey Acres. We sent an email to all of you supervisors. Oh, I'm sorry, Johnson, directors, staff. We sent an email to you about our water district up there, Horizon 6. You haven't, you read it, and I'm not going to go over this with you, but there's a few points that we want to make is that we'd like to talk to each supervisor in your office, and there'd be about 3 or 4 of us from the district, so we can go over this for our request, and you understand what we're asking for. With that said, I'm going to get into the next thing. Accountability. We have work done up there in our district, and there's no accountability. And with this kind of money that we're talking about, we want accountability. And the first thing we'd like is that when the work order is put out for repair or replacement, that everything is covered from start to finish, even down to the last grain of sand that's all going at for doing this. Next thing, we'd like the county to have their inspectors check this project as it goes along, just like you do any other building. And the third thing is, members of the board here that was with me when we drew this up, we'd like to be able to observe the work going on. And what that amounts to is we'd like to see the work order that's sent out so we can look at it, see if anything's been left off or see if something could be added on. Plus, when the inspector does his deal, if there's going to be an inspector, that we could take a look at that to see that everything was done. Second, we'd like to know when this work is going to be done, where it's going to be done at, what time, so a few of us from the members of the board could go out there and look and observe only, not to be bosses or anything. But if we see something that's going not right, that we could call staff up or call the inspector up and say, hey, I got some pictures here. This is what they're doing. The work order, they're not following it. That's our main concern. And anything that could help us with this water district, we'd be really appreciative. You people know that we're in a lot of trouble with this here. Our funds are gone. We're having work done 2-3 times, and it's still just a bunch of junk. So that's all I got to say.
Thank you,
If you have any questions, you can ask me.
Thank you, sir.
Chairman Johnson?
Supervisor?
This item is just about how to start the discussion on how we're going to divide the money up or what we're going to do. It's not for specific projects. We're not at that stage yet, are we? Is that how you interpret it?
No.
Right.
And we'll have to get a legal opinion from the county attorney on exactly, once we have all the paperwork to find out what can legally be done.
Right.
Is there any other discussion?
About the agenda item?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I like this. It's how we do the community development block grants, and it's worked well that way. But I do think we need, like Chairman Johnson said, we need more information about how we can spend it and things like that. I did have, is there other people signed up to speak?
No, that was it.
I have something that someone gave me to read. She came, but she didn't realize it was later. She thought it was going to be called to public. So if I may,
Sure.
I'm here to address you regarding items 39, 40, 41, 42, concerning the gigantic pork bill that Congress calls the American Rescue Plan Act. First, I'm opposed to using funds to expand and grow the county government. And then she goes on, I'm going to try to keep it to what we're talking about. I'm not for or against the splitting of money into equal portions for each supervisor district. However, I hope that the funds, if split in this manner, would be spent similarly to the way we spell WACOG funds, the CDBG. And that's it for this particular item. And that was from Becky Foster from Kingman.
Okay. Anyone else have anything to discuss on this item? County Manager, do you have anything on this?
Mr. Chairman, board members, thank you. I've discussed this with several board members individually, and you know, the comment from Supervisor Angus is, I believe, timely and on the mark. We have been in discussion with other counties. We're all in the same boat. We're all waiting for additional guidelines from the Department of Treasury, and we all want to receive that prior to going to our boards and getting direction and understanding your priorities, your preferences, but at least doing so when we can provide you some answers to any questions you may have. So to that end, one thing we do know for sure, and it's repeated throughout this, is they do expect us to report on these expenditures, and that we will get audited, and if it does not comply, we will have the honor of paying it back. So because of that, I'm certainly glad to hear the Supervisor Angus make her comment and look forward to receiving those guidelines and coming to the board, whatever the board preference is, to have a workshop, study session, work with you, getting some guidance before we proceed. But we have not received the money yet, so we're waiting for the money and for the guidelines. And those are my comments. Thank you.
Chairman Johnson?
Yes.
Sam, when do you expect to get the first part? Because we're only getting half of it. When I say only, we're talking over $20 million.
Chairman Johnson, Supervisor Angus, the law was, the act was signed into law on March 11th. They have repeatedly said within 60 days, and we have not received it. So we're coming up on the first 30 days here. So we're thinking it's 4 weeks away.
Are we having a legal review of it? I know I'm concerned. I think other people on the board are concerned about any strings that may be attached to this, even in the fine print. Is the state doing that? Is the Managers Association, the county managers, or the county attorneys? I mean, I want assurances that if we allocate this money, that we are not tied to anything from the federal government that we may not, as a county, want to be tied to.
Chairman Johnson, Supervisor Angus, absolutely, we will have legal review here within Mojave County, and as you know, we're constantly in touch with other counties through CSA. So we will make sure we have the best understanding that we can of it before we sit down with you, the board members, again, to get guidance. And it may take a week or two or a month for us to meet with you, get some guidance, go work on a plan, come back to you, so it's something you can consider and adopt.
Okay, we have an LPC meeting on Friday, and I think we'll get probably the latest update there. They seem to have it right off the presses. So we'll relay that back.
Chairman Johnson, if I may jump in here.
Attorney Yesplin.
We're happy to review anything that is given to us, and to date, I've not seen anything, at least from anybody, any organizations or anything. It just seems like we just have not received any information, but I'm happy to look at it. I will note that the Arizona Attorney General recently filed suit. One of the provisions, and again, I haven't seen this, but one of the provisions is that you cannot use the act money to offset taxes, to reduce taxes. And the Attorney General actually reached out to the Treasury Department, to the Treasurer, and asked for guidance on this, and she responded, and they still didn't understand it. I mean, the guidance that Secretary Yellen gave to the Attorney General was still ambiguous and confusing, and so there's still uncertainty even from them. I was just reviewing the letter that Secretary Yellen gave to the Attorney General, and I mean, it is. I have to admit, it's pretty ambiguous, and it's not clear whether you can or cannot. And so they're litigating that issue right now because it's uncertain. I do note in the letter, the Treasury says that they are crafting further guidance. So hopefully that further guidance will answer those questions. But when we get them, then we'll review them. But to date, I haven't seen anything. So that's where we stand.
Chairman Johnson, if I might.
Manager Bishop.
I think this American Rescue Plan, so-called, according to Supervisor Gold, it provides historical levels of support. But like everyone has pointed out, we don't have any information on this yet, and right now it's just kind of being thrown out there. We're getting a lot of phone calls and emails, people wanting a portion of this generous offer from the federal government. It's a good way to respond to our ongoing public health and economic challenges, but it's just really premature, and I don't think we should count our chickens before they hatch. I think item number 39, 41, and 42 are just premature.
Now, I would agree with Supervisor Angelson's comments about making sure that there's some proper analysis that goes into it to make sure that we're not tied to anything from the federal government. I think that that's absolutely something that we need to do. Besides that, really what this was simply just to every single district supervisor knows their district better than anybody. They know the needs there. And just to simply say we were going to apportion it similar to WACOG or the way that we do the CBDG, the Community Development Block Grant Funds, excuse me. But that's all I have. Thank you.
Supervisor Angus.
When we do get guidance and we are ready to start talking about it, would you be amenable to a workshop? Would that be a direction that you would want to go to?
I'd rather have my teeth pulled. I'm just on a regular agenda. We can make decisions. I just think workshops are a waste of time because we can't make any decisions. Throw it on the agenda like we did this time, and that'd be my preference. Anything else on this one, Supervisor Lingenfelter?
No, it's. I won't make a motion on this one. It sounds like we have some more due diligence just to make sure that there's no strings attached from the feds. I haven't seen it yet, but you never know. Read it a few more times first. So, thank you.
You might.
Oh, good.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Supervisor Lingenfelder, you might make a motion that we go ahead and act on your proposed motion with the caveat that we'll still wait to see what the strings are before we actually move ahead with spending the money.
I appreciate that, Supervisor Gould, and I'll do that. I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve item 39 with the caveat that proper analysis is done either by CSA or the Legislative Policy Committee to make sure there's no federal strings attached that we're not comfortable with.
Motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion is a second for discussion. Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries. Item number 40, Supervisor Angus.
We talked about at previous meetings giving a benefit to our employees for identity protection. In this day and age, we've had some issues here in the county. So we took it in front of the trust. We asked Aaron Collins, now Gallagher, to give us some suggestions, which they did. And at that time, we decided that it should be a board decision because it is an extra expense. Do we want to have the employees pay for all of it? If they choose, do we want it to be a 50-50 split or something that the county will pay in full? So, Sam, Mr. Elters, can you just give a brief overview about what it would entail monetarily for the county?
Thank you, Supervisor Angus. Yes, indeed. Quickly, we had 3 different options from 2 different companies. After reviewing them, we decided that the one option that is being recommended to you is which is not the Cadillac option. It's the most reasonable one. It provides the coverage that we think is reasonable given the impact that an identity theft has on a person, and the fact that individuals do not know and often have nothing to do with the fact that their personal information is compromised and wreaks havoc on their lives, that covering the employees only automatically is the right direction to take. The option that we're recommending to the board is under $4 a month. It adds up to $40,000 or thereabout annually. We think that is really an appropriate way to go, given that with the fraudulent claim that we shared with you and made you aware of, that's 100 people that were whose personal information had been compromised. So we come to you with that understanding that that we offer the standard coverage to every county, to every active county employee, and that should they choose to buy up a more expensive coverage, or should they choose to add family members, the employees would pay for that, but that the county would cover the standard option for county employees at that cost. And we do believe that the trust, the Employee Benefit Trust, financially is sound to absorb that.
I guess I put this on the agenda originally because we have employees who had their identity taken. My original was just to take care of those employees, to say the county will pick it up for a year or 2 years to see identity theft. I understand this looks like a good program that you've come up with, but I think there's two options here. We can either address the employees who got their identity stolen by the county taking a plan out for them, or by taking a plan out for everybody. But just want to let you know there is two things here, and those other people have been waiting quite a while.
Well, thank you, because I didn't realize that.
Yeah, that was all I wanted to begin
Okay.
with.
Again, so these days, so many different agencies offer it as part of their service. I know banks do. I just rejoined AAA, and as part of that, there's free identity. Now, I'm not sure how far. I do personally have LifeLock, and it is over $100 a year. And I signed up for a new telephone carrier and had to put my Social Security, and I came home, and there was a note. Was this you? And that's the kind of thing that I think puts people at ease. Like, however, I don't know how many of our employees would use other things. So when we do our benefit trust annual, when Erin comes in front of the board and talks about what we did this year and charge changes, I would like people to know that it could save money. So if we get this, I will probably stop paying to LifeLock because if the county carries it. But then I don't know, because I don't know how everyone has to figure out for themselves what is best for them and their family. So this would just cover the employee and themselves, not their families, and so not their dependents, just the employee. Right. And there are different levels that the employee can go up to, and then include their family as well. And so if we do this, I would like to come back and see if people are using this, because I'm not sure. But I do think at this point, with all the problems we had, it would be the best and most ethical thing to do to help the employees who seem to be targeted by this fraud. That's all.
Chairman Johnson, if I may.
Yes.
One more comment, and that is, you're absolutely right. We started with, can we get it for the employees whose identity had been stolen? Understanding, though, we didn't know who those would be until they were notified and they let us know that their identity had been stolen. So to that end, the thinking is by getting a countywide coverage, we prevent any additional ones from being stolen and either eliminate or minimize the impact on those employees if their identity was to be stolen like the others. So just a clarification.
I guess my concern comes from, this has been 2 months now, and the people who had their identities stolen, I don't know if they've taken measures themselves or not, but I think that the county quite possibly is responsible for their information getting out. And if we go through everybody in the county getting the policy, how long is that going to take? It just seems like we need to do something for the employees who had their identity stolen. You know, we either say we're going to help them out, or say no, so they know they're on their own. But I think it's gone 2 months now, and we need to do something for those.
Chairman Johnson, what would you think would be the recourse? What can other than protecting them in the future? We can't go back. There's nothing we can do to stop what already happened to them. So what would be the recourse for the people that got their identity stolen?
I think just the same thing, getting a policy in place so that it's monitored for them. Now, they might be doing it themselves by now. I would have, but who knows with money and things. If we just said, we're going to enact something for a year to monitor your credit. And that was all I was looking for. I figured puts them a little more at ease.
So you're not in favor of doing it for the whole county?
Oh, no, I have no problem with that. I
Okay.
think it's a good idea. I like that, but I just wanted those people to get it done because
Right.
theirs has already been taken.
I'm sorry,
and
I didn't,
that was
I
all.
didn't understand that. So how quickly can this happen if we pass it today?
Chairman Johnson, Supervisor Angus, that we can do it immediately. We were informed that the company that we are recommending is changing the setup. I'll call it that for lack of better terms. So we can make it available immediately, and then they would re-sign when we start our open enrollment process, or they can wait until then. But the thinking was
Well, the
probably want it
trust
done
still
now.
has to meet again because we did not finish our meeting. There were all these outstanding things. We didn't vote on the funding yet.
Supervisor Angus, thank you. You're absolutely right. It could be active right after the EBT board meet to approve it, along with the couple additional items that are on the.
And when is that scheduled for? Do you know?
We have yet to schedule it,
We do it
Supervisor
quickly?
Angus, but with you're the chair, with your approval, we can schedule it. We were honestly thinking either this week or early next week.
Okay, so it would go into effect right after that. So in about a week,
Yes.
a week and a half. or
Yep.
so.
Thank you for pointing that out.
Let's go.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to remind the board that people can lock their credit at no charge to them at all three of the major credit reporting agencies, which protects them from somebody applying to credit in their name, and that pretty much protects them at no cost to them and no cost to the taxpayer. Thank you.
But would that have helped this situation? That's just from the credit cards, but for the situation where people had their identities stolen and used for fraudulent unemployment claims, that wouldn't have helped them. Would this help that? This thing that they're voting on today, would that help that?
Absolutely. Yes, they all say the same thing, Chairman Johnson and Supervisor Angus. As you know, they all share, nobody can block every single transaction, but they do, that's what the program is set up to do. It
seems to me as soon as people use their social security number for anything, then you get notified, was this you? Because that's what happened to me. I hadn't had that for a long time, but then I thought I really haven't bought anything or did something to get credit or anything like that, where they took my social security number.
Mr. Chairman.
Let's go.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sam, did anybody check with the state to see if the state participates in a program that one of these programs would pick up when they're filing for false unemployment?
Chairman Johnson, Supervisor Gould, we have not checked with the state on that particular option or possibility.
Because I would argue that if a business doesn't participate in that, they'd have no way of the credit protection agency would have no way of picking that up. You know, I'm a landlord. If I don't participate, I have no idea. It's not going to notify the real person if if the potential tenant is using a fake social security number. It's not going to come up. So it would only be people that are somehow putting it into some kind of a database.
So I cannot explain without going back to check how the two are connected, Supervisor Gould, meaning the state DES shared with us that they have added measures to check on unemployment claims to ensure that the fraudulent ones are caught before they're processed. But with that said, I don't know if those measures are going to screen and stop every one of them, and what a program like this one covering identity theft for individuals and employees, whether it would pick up those or not. I would assume it would. That would be the expectation, but I would have to go back and check. I don't want to misrepresent or mislead you on an answer.
Did a good job of condensing 3 minutes of Gouldism into 20 seconds, I will say. Good job.
Thank you.
Chairman Johnson.
Supervisor Lingenfelter.
Thank you. One more question for you, Sam, if I could. Like Supervisor Angus, I have a LifeLock as well, and I'm sure that there's probably several of our county employees that have something privately, right? So my question is, if this is approved, is this going to be released on a voluntary basis, that it would just be made available to those employees that would wish to have it if they don't have something? Or is it going to be given to everybody?
Chairman Johnson, Supervisor Lingenfelter, it would be available for every active county employee who chooses to follow up. They would have to sign up for it and provide perhaps some information, but it's not mandatory. We just wanted to, in our discussion with the chair and the board, we want it to be fair to all county employees.
Terrific. Thank you.
Something I do, Supervisor Johnson. Something I want to make sure you understand is that the county will pays per employee, so we have to pay for everybody. And I have a small concern, because if people have it on their own and they have maybe a higher level package, and then they say, "Oh, county's paying for it," you got to make sure it's equal to the one you have, and then you can buy up. That's sort of something that we will have to educate the employees on, because I don't want someone to come and think they're going to get everything that they get now. If you're getting kind of the starter one, that's good in this program. It's very good, or else we wouldn't have voted yes on it.
Any other discussion? We have a motion.
Chairman Johnson, I make a motion that we approve identity theft protection for benefit eligible employees with Cyber Scout Silver option paid by the county. Employees would have the ability to upgrade and add family at employees' expense.
We have a second.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed, same sign.
No.
Motion carries. Number 41, does this need action, Supervisor Gould, or?
It's basically what I was trying to get at, Mr. Chairman, and if I turn my microphone on, was to have Public Works take a look at any transportation projects that we could potentially accelerate due to the money from the so-called American Rescue Plan. I thought it would be good information when we get into a decision-making.
Do you want to make a motion on that, or does
I'll make a motion. Let's see, I got to break this. I move that we request the Public Works Department to explore accelerating transportation projects using the so-called American Rescue Plan money that the county will be receiving.
Would that be by district?
Sure, by district.
All right.
I'll second that.
And for
Motion,
discussion?
second discussion.
So that's just for like a report that administration will come back with?
Mr. Chairman, Supervisor Angus, yeah, I envision a report so that we would know what they feel. Since they're the experts, I thought it would be good to know where they would know where the needs are and what we could accelerate.
You have a motion and second. Supervisor Lingenfelter?
Thank you. And just further clarification, is that the criteria that they'd be looking at? Would it be safety, mobility, economic development, those types of things, as far as priority on the roads?
It's transportation.
Yeah.
So I guess they could look at
Safety, mobility, economic development, all that stuff. Yeah.
Sure.
County Manager.
As you consider voting on this item, please allow me to share a thought with you, because I feel compelled to do so. The fund, until we get further guidance on this American Rescue Plan Act, my understanding of it today is it is intended to address and and mitigate the respond to this public health emergency. So we would not be able to directly program it for roads and highway projects. So that is my understanding today. I just want to share that with you. If the guidelines that we receive change that, I'll be the first one to come back to you and communicate it with you. Thank you.
Chairman Johnson.
Supervisor Bishop.
As I said on 39, I feel the same way on 41. This is just totally premature. I'll be voting no on 41 and 42. We're talking about spending money that we don't even have. So I just wanted to remind everybody that we don't have this $41 million yet. That's all.
Okay, any other discussion?
Mr. Chairman.
Supervisor Gould.
I'm sure that we will be supplanting funds unless this has some kind of a no supplanting clause in it, which I don't think that it does. So we'll still be looking at dreaming up some COVID reason to fund so that we can fund the other projects.
I think I read that a portion of it specifically prohibited supplanting, but then there's some other monies maybe coming for PILT counties, and we obviously get PILT money, so there's probably, we got to watch for supplanting.
Okay, nothing else? All right, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries. Item 42, Supervisor Gould.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Similar to the previous issue, I just thought that Public Works should sit down with the Sheriff's Department and come up with the things that the Sheriff needs to have done that we could possibly spend so-called American Recovery Act money on.
This will be by district also?
By district.
Have a second?
I'll second that.
A motion and a second, discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign?
Aye.
Motion carries. Item number 43A, which is going to be a short one. Ms. Burley. Followed by an even shorter item B.
Chairman Johnson, members of the board. So be brief. Is that what you're?
That's what we're looking for.
Got it. All right. Let's start with, we'll skip around a little bit if that's okay. Okay, we'll start with the school benchmarks. In lieu of some of the information which came out on Friday in our fact sheet, which would generally be what I would go over first. So just to give you some idea of the new school benchmarks and how they've impacted our schools or how they're influenced by that recommendation. For the first indicator, new cases per 100,000 residents, we had 53 cases in the last 7 days. That's down from 72 in the previous week, so we're seeing improvements there. And the percent positive tests remain about the same, which is about 6%. So while our county is recommended, well, we're still in the substantial range, and the recommendation is still virtual. Again, schools and districts have the ability to make that decision. It's a recommendation only, and they make that decision for their own school. Okay. The CDC has updated their guidance on physical distancing in schools. As of March 19th, elementary schools are impacted by changing the guidance from 6 feet to 3 feet apart in classrooms where masks are being used universally, and for any community transmission levels that are in the for any community transmission level. So it doesn't matter which level you are in, as long as you are using universal masks, and you can use that 3-foot distancing instead of 6 feet. So hopefully that will help the schools in terms of spacing and space overall.
I have just one quick question.
Sure.
So I know that Governor Ducey has now made masks in private stores. You know, if the private store wants to make it a thing, then they can, or it's recommended, right? Is it recommended in schools, or is it still mandatory in our schools?
You know, that's a great question, and I think they're still all just recommendations.
So it's only recommended that kids mask up all day at school. It's
Correct.
not required.
That's correct.
Okay, that's good to know. Thanks.
If I could just jump into that, Chairman.
Sure.
I think you're going to also have to run into issues though with school board. School boards may make it required. I mean, they're an elected body, and the school board may say that we're going to still require masks.
But it's a local issue. It's a school board that's voting.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying, is that it would be up to, it could
But
be up to
my
the-
question was to Director Burley is this CDC mandated guidance?
Got it.
Or not? And it's not.
Sure, thank you.
Absolutely. So along those same lines, in middle school and high schools, students should remain at least 3 feet apart in classrooms where masks are being used universally and where community transmission falls into any of those categories. If the community transmission level is high, students should be at least 6 feet apart if cohorts are not possible. And, you know, they're obviously continuing to recommend the 6 feet between adults and students in common areas such as auditoriums when masks, of course, cannot be worn, including eating. Activities that increased exhalation, such as singing or band practice, and in community settings outside of the classroom. So those are just the new recommendations that are being that have been laid out by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention for the schools. All right. Sorry, got to go through my notes here quick. CDC also updated travel guidance, domestic travel guidance. People who are fully vaccinated with an FDA-authorized vaccine can travel safely within the United States. If you are fully vaccinated, take the following steps. Protect others. Of course, it's usually, again, wearing a mask over your nose and mouth on planes, buses, trains, and other forms of public transportation. Avoiding crowds, washing your hands, the typical things that we've been mentioning for the last year plus. So, all right. Sorry I'm bouncing around. I'm trying to keep it somewhat short here for you so we can go on. So let me go through the vaccine information because I know that's of greatest importance for many. Total number of doses administered in Mojave County is 72,642. 91.6% of the vaccine inventory in the county has been utilized, and that was as of 8 o'clock this morning. The ADHS does modify their dashboard at 9 o'clock, and they they add the previous week's allocation in, so that number will change if it hasn't already. The state's Johnson & Johnson vaccine allocation was higher than expected and translated to a higher allocation for counties in this last week. An unfortunate mistake, as you know, at a factory manufacturing Johnson & Johnson vaccine has resulted in the loss of 15 million doses. It is unclear how this will impact future J&J allocations for the state and the county. I mean, there would be some obvious implications, but those would be assumptions at this point. So we will see in future weeks how or if that impacts our allocation locally. The federal government has fully activated the retail pharmacy program and will be providing vaccine to all participating facilities. Some were already in motion, but you're going to be seeing Walmart and Costco added to the list of facilities that can now, if they've signed up to participate in that program, that can also receive vaccine from the federal allocation, so not from the state allocation. Okay. In the coming weeks, we may encounter a time where the supply of vaccine outweighs the demand. We are seeing from other counties that is already occurring, and you're seeing a drop you're seeing appointments available, same day appointments, next day appointments, and the availability of those appointments is increasing greatly. We've actually noticed that in the last 2 weeks, that we've seen some of the providers have appointments that are that are almost same day or next day or very soon. So we want to ensure that we'll still have vaccine coming into our community, but what I'd like to mention is that if we get to a point where we have more vaccine allocated to our county than we're able to use, we may have to turn that vaccine away because we just simply cannot take on vaccine if our providers out in the community have enough and the demand isn't there. So we want to recommend, certainly to the public, anybody that's considering getting a vaccination, please do so. Keep that supply coming into our county. Take care of yourself in that way, and do that in the near future. So,
Can you remind everybody what phase we're in? Is it anybody now or?
it is.
Right.
So, yes, thank you very much, Supervisor Lingenfelter. So right now, if there's Pfizer at a location, that is 16 and up. And if it's Moderna or Johnson & Johnson, that vaccine would be 18 and up, are eligible for the vaccine. Any questions there?
Denise, I have a question. How did the clinic go in Dolan Springs, and will there be others in the remote communities in the future?
Thank you for asking. We served 220 individuals out in the Dolan Springs area on that day. So 220 people were vaccinated. We are working on one for Golden Shores, and I hope to have some further details here very shortly. So I believe we have the space. I just need some of the logistics to be worked out before we share that information out. So at that point, and we'll be using, where we can, the Johnson & Johnson vaccine for those particular events because it just makes it more practical to be out there, give the shot, and then we don't have to come back a second time. We're also working with North Country Healthcare. They have a mobile unit that is available to them to provide vaccination services. So also working with them on events, or at least where they might go in rural communities to assist in those efforts as well. So they are very interested in that.
Looking it up, it was sent to me, an update on mask requirements. It's from Arizona Department of Education saying that Emergency Measure 2020-04 is still in effect, requiring masks in all K through 12 schools. Masking is one of the top mitigation strategies for safe in-person learning as recommended by the CDC.
I am sorry. I apologize. I forgot about that emergency measure, which actually came from the Arizona Department of Health Services and not from the governor's executive orders. So I stand corrected. Thank you, Supervisor Johnson, Chairman Johnson. Okay, so in consultation with the county manager, we've talked internally and with the county manager about some possible changes within our reporting structure, our current reporting structure. And I have an example here I'd like to share with you of possible changes that we would like to recommend moving forward. So given that we're over a year into the response, conditions are improving, and the focus we want to shift to and ensure stays on trends, and trying to shift basically our public health into more normal operations and giving us the time to do so. We're proposing to modify the reports and the frequency the reports are provided to the board and the public. So what you see there is an outline of all the reports on the left-hand side and their name that are typically provided to you or to the public, the staff responsible for each one of those. Sent to, of course, the current frequency and the proposed frequency change. And we're looking at, if we can, making these effective starting next Monday, as this would give us time to shift our attention and our staff time to other resources.
You're looking for a motion from us? Does the board have a chance to look at it and have any concerns or want to adopt this?
Chairman Johnson, I make a motion that we do adopt this amended format.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I second that.
A motion and a second. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Okay, if we can move on to item B. Were there any other questions regarding the normal section A there?
I have a general question, though.
Supervisor Gould.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Denise, do we know how many civil fines we've levied against businesses?
None.
None?
You mean for enforcement?
Yes.
We have
Zero.
not, to my knowledge, we have not levied any fines.
Thank you.
Let me grab my notes for this second section. This one I think I'm organized. Okay. Sorry, it's taking so long.
If you, Chairman Johnson, if you wish, I can give you a rundown of the Executive Order 2021-06 if that'll help.
Sure, if you want. It's short.
I'll go quick. So, Governor Ducey issued Executive Order 2021-06, which rescinded a number of the executive orders previously, and I'll just kind of review it real quick. First off, he rescinded the requirements about public events. If you recall previously, there was a requirement that there cannot be events 50 or more people, and if there were, you'd have to get certain permissions from jurisdictions. That's no longer in effect. Although he did encourage people to follow CDC guidelines and so on. He also rescinded 2020-09. That was the one that closed the bars, movie theaters, indoor gyms, and fitness clubs. So that's rescinded. It also addressed liquor sales. Again, that's been rescinded. He rescinded 2020-36. That was the one where asking people to stay home, stay healthy, and so on. That's been rescinded. 2020-40, that was the one where counties and cities may adopt face coverings policies. That has been rescinded. 2020-43, that prohibited, that was the one about the organizations of 50 more people, and again, that has been rescinded. Also, that put a pause on operations for bars, indoor gyms, and fitness clubs. That's been rescinded. 2020-47 has also been rescinded. That was the limitation on indoor dining at restaurants. That also closed buffets. So again, that's rescinded. 2020-52, that was extending the 50-person limitations, and that's been rescinded, or portions of it have been at least. And then that's the same with 2020-54. So a number of the restrictions that have been in place for the public gatherings, 50 more people, restrictions on businesses, those have been rescinded. Counties and cities cannot pass items that conflict with the governor's laws. That includes face coverings, with one exception. Government entities can impose restrictions for government buildings and public transportations, and that could include mask enforcement as well, or mask requirements as well.
Thank you. Sure. Anything to add, Ms. Burley?
I think he's covered it. Thank you. Thank you. I think at this point, there'll be, of course, as when that became effective, we did no further enforcement activity. We haven't investigated or inspected any facilities as a result of a complaint other than a food-related complaint and things that we would normally respond to anyway.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. He summarized it very, very well, went through each one of the particular governor's executive orders and where we're at. So, yes.
Do you have anything else to add, or is that it?
I do not.
We're adjourned. Thank you.